Hi, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Sean Moss with Down Payment Resource, and most of you know who we are. And you also know that helping consumers with financial information that can help them live a better life has been critical to our mission at Down Payment Resource and is an important part of why we started our company. And so we're excited today to have a special guest, the CEO and founder of Best Money Moves, Ilyce Glink, and she's going to walk us through financial wellness, her new company and their tools at Best Money Moves. And we're going to engage in some dialogue along the way. We are recording this. Please enter any questions in the chat box as we go. And with that, I'd like to ask you, Ilyce, to introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself, your background, and Best Money Moves, and let's get started.
Sounds good. Thanks, Sean. Hi, everybody, and just a big note of thank you to Down Payment Resource for making this possible today. One of the things that, I think for those of you who do know me, you know that I've been very involved with helping people make better and smarter decisions with their money for my entire career. I've done it through my syndicated columns, my books, my 4th edition of my best-selling book. You may know that one, 100 Questions Every First-Time Homebuyer Should Ask, will be out next March. And through the radio talk shows that I've done both at WSB Radio in Atlanta and WGN Radio in Chicago, television, and all the rest. And so you know that the kind of work that I'm very interested in is what makes home ownership more affordable for people in general, and how do we get this new group of millennials who have all come into the workforce now and suddenly, now that they're hitting the top age of 34, 35, 36, they're suddenly realizing that maybe owning a home is a very good idea and that they would like to do that. So how do we help them do it? Down Payment Resource obviously offers a lot of wonderful tools. And what we've done in our house is try to work on some of the other parts of it, because financial ill health and financial stress are rampant at an all-time high. And the story of how I got from freelance writer to software CEO is in just 3 easy decades, is a story that I've told before. But the concept is that as we're more focused on financial stress, what we need to do is figure out on how to fix it and dial down that stress. So that's really what we're trying to do here with Best Money Moves. I want to start by talking a little bit just about what inspired me to do this, and then we're going to have a couple of polls as we go along the way here. But looking at stress and financial stress, some of you may know, actually, I've had the opportunity to help many big Fortune 500 companies like Discover Card and Equifax and Visa and some others, work with them to develop some interesting tools, blogs, web portals, things that can help consumers make smarter decisions. And yet here we are 10 years after the start of the greatest recession that we've had and the worst recession in 80 years, where people are, even though there are fewer people in foreclosure or fewer people who are late paying their mortgages and their other kinds of bills, we find that financial stress is really high. And as we'll talk about in just a moment, 80% of employees are registering financial stress severe enough to cause them to have workplace accidents at a more frequent pace. Retention is lower, productivity is lower than it could be, and all the rest. And there's some very real stresses, particularly for the real estate industry, both on the real estate broker side and, of course, on the mortgage lending side. And we'll talk about those in just a moment. Sean, do you want to do our first poll as we get into it?
Yeah, so I'll put this up on the screen here, and just a sec. All right, so you can click your answer on the screen right now. Tell us what percentage of your staff do you think is financially stressed? And there's a few answers. You can click them right there on the screen. I'll give you a couple seconds to do that, and then we'll look at the results. And let's see, about half of you have voted. Okay, almost there. Good deal. All right, a couple more people left to vote. Go ahead and click your answer on the screen. What percentage of your staff do you think is financially stressed? All right, and so just about everybody has voted here. Let's go ahead and close this out. I'll show you the results. And so there you go. Let's see, 60% of you said about half of your staff is financially stressed. 20% of you said as much as 75% of your staff is financially stressed, and 20% of you, a fifth of you, said you really don't know. So in that context, Ilyce, tell us more about the business case for Best Money Moves, and let me get this back off the screen here. And now we're back on your screen.
Great. So when you think about employees both in the real estate brokerage space and also in the mortgage lending space, there are a few things that pop up, like on the screen right now: variable income, 1099 income, high turnover, low productivity, right? These are some of the signs of financial stress. But they're not the only ones that have financial stress. And so customers, or what we would call in some cases B2B2C or B2C, your employees, their customers also have financial stress. And it's part of what we're seeing as the business case for companies like Best Money Moves. So when you look across Americans, 63% of Americans are broke. I'm sure many of you have watched the Bankrate survey over the years, and you've seen that in some years they don't even have $500 in cash for emergencies. I think that the latest one showed maybe just $400 in cash. It's a little bit hard to buy a house when you don't even have a month's worth of mortgage payment on hand. The scary part is that a lot of these are millennials, and they're seriously one paycheck away from living on the street. When you look overall at the employees, now half of you said that you thought your employees were financially stressed. Up to 30 million employees by one estimate, or roughly 25% of the workforce, are severely affected by financial stress. It costs employers $15,000 a year per employee. That's not just the overall cost. That is a per employee cost. Once you factor in lost productivity, workplace accidents, health and welfare issues, and by health we also mean healthcare costs, which, as we all know, are rising. I know they are for my employees. Turnover, which is higher, and HR department distractions. I've had conversations with major real estate brokerage companies where the head of HR will tell me that for their employees that run the company, as well as for the realtors that they're trying to get in the door, they spend 2-3 hours a day some days. And that's out of 5 days. Maybe they spend 3 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day, just talking to people about credit and debt issues. So I don't know if it's just because real estate is attracting these sorts of people, or it's what I really think it is. Everybody still has a whole lot of debt. They may be paying that debt more on time, but they are taking on debt, and it's worrying them. Sorry. Here's why you should care. When you talk to employers about financial stress, sort of the old-time employers will say to me, what does this mean to me? My father-in-law, who ran a paper mill, for I don't know how many decades, said it would have never, he's in his almost 90 now, and he said, it would have never even occurred to me to ask whether people could afford to live on what I was paying them. But the truth is that today's employees, particularly millennials, are looking to you to provide this sort of guidance, just the way they're looking to you to provide all sorts of other benefits. And if you were in the tech world, they would be looking to you to provide everything from snacks to meals and all the rest. But there's an emotional attachment that we all have to debt and to whether or not we can get our bills paid and take care of our family. When employers show that they appreciate those financial challenges, they get an extra benefit back from the employees. And it's not even just employees when you're doing this for your customers as well. And so we're now in the process of talking to mortgage lenders, banks, credit unions, and real estate brokerage companies about how they engage with customers that they would like to have who may be experiencing financial stress. Oops, sorry about that. This is a very sensitive machine here. HR managers are reporting that 2/3 of employees are thinking about their overall debt. Almost 2/3 are thinking about saving for retirement. That pops up for us as well. half are nervous about saving for or paying for children's education. So younger millennials are thinking about future children's college tuition. Baby boomers are thinking about how they pay off their own college tuition at the same time that they're paying off their own children's college tuition. So there's a whole lot of student debt stuff going on right now. Half are worried about basic living expenses, and a third are stressed about paying for medical expenses. The new studies out this week are all pointing to millennials having what they consider to be unexpected medical expenses and how they're going to actually pay for those. Everybody knows the 80-20, right? It's 20% do 80% of the business. So my new 80-20 for financial wellness is more that 80% of employers are saying that their employees' personal finance issues are impacting job performance. And that's everything from showing up to focus. 20% are so extremely stressed about it that they're suffering from all sorts of physical symptoms. And when you look at some of the new studies that are just coming out from places like Humana and universities that are like Washington University and St. Louis that are really focused on kind of the physical aspects of financial stress, you'll see that people who are at that level, that top 20% level, are 4 times as likely to suffer from the physical symptoms. So they really are now tying what we've all known internally, right? When you're stressed, you get sick, and when you're stressed about money, you really get sick. We've talked a little bit about millennials, and I would point out to you that most of your millennials are very concerned about student loans, often or all of the time. 2/3 say there's nobody that they can turn to for financial advice that they trust. Now, you might think that's crazy with all the information you publish on your websites, the information I publish on my website, thinklink.com, 7,000 to 8,000 pages of free information. But the truth is that it all comes down to trust. And believe it or not, employees trust their employers more than they trust anybody else, except perhaps their parents, and maybe even more than them. 61% consider themselves to be completely financially illiterate. And so whether that means that their parents didn't do a good job of passing down that information, or now that they're really in the workforce and earning the dollars and they're not getting the kind of money they thought they'd get, and are not able to live the Instagrammable lifestyle, they are very worried about this and not understanding how to make those numbers work at the end of the day. So Ann Hewitt, which looks at retirement topics year in and year out, has said for the second year in a row that 2017 is the year of financial wellness, and that almost all companies are looking to add to what they consider their pot of financial wellness products to be. And so, when you talk to a company and they're like, oh, we have financial wellness. Really, what do you have? Oh, we have a 401k, or we have healthcare insurance. Yes, those are certainly big parts of financial wellness. But what it doesn't do is glue it all together for employees. So if you have an employee who uses Quicken or QuickBooks, which I've been doing for 30, 35 years, a tool like Best Money Moves or some of the other apps that are out there, that's probably not going to work for them. What you need is something that combines not just a budget crunching, whatever place to record what you're actually spending, but you need some sort of context and framework around it. And that's what's so important to companies when they're considering financial wellness. So when you talk to companies about financial wellness programs that they offer, what we discovered in doing the research before we started Best Money Moves is that they fall into one of 2 categories. Either they're trying to sell things to your employees who we already know can't afford them, and it gets them distracted, like unnecessary insurance products, for example, or maybe it's credit monitoring products. Or the second thing they're trying to do is get assets under management, with the idea that somehow if they can get people to save money, they'll then hand their money over, whether it's 10 cents at a time, $10 at a time, or $10,000, and they'll be able to do some sort of robo-investment advisory. And really, your employees aren't in a position to do either of those things. You want to steer them away from companies that want to just sell them things, or if they've got assets to put under management, wouldn't you rather they fully fund the 401k you're already providing to them? That's my position. There's hardly anything better than a 401k. So when we were deciding what to put into Best Money Moves, what we decided to do was build something that would be next generation, but really working on behalf of all employees and their employers, and now, because we're working on B2C versions of this, your end users, your customers. So what we did is we decided to, instead of just saying, are you stressed? Sure, you're stressed. Everybody's stressed about money. We decided to push in, and this is something that I learned from my radio shows, doing counseling in 2 minutes before we went to the commercial break. If I didn't dig in to find out what was really going on behind the scenes with somebody, it was really hard for me to help them. And so we measure financial stress across 15 categories, 14 categories, and then you get an other. We help them organize their financial lives. We focus on how to get them out of debt as quickly as possible, and how we downplay or dial down their financial stress by using machine learning technology, the cool stuff, to kind of push specific information, tools, suggestions, calculators to them that are all relevant to the situation that they're going in, with the end result that they're better and more significant in the work that they do for you. In addition, we added in something that we call our money coaches. And this is kind of interesting, both in terms of what banks offer and credit unions offer. Our money coaches, and we'll explain a little bit more about them, but we wanted somebody that you could call, because technology, while it's great, it's not always the be-all, end-all. It's not always enough. And so we really wanted people to understand that there was somebody to call if the technology wasn't answering all of their questions. And so our money coaches are not-for-profit, debt, budget, credit, housing, and bankruptcy experts. They're not going to tell your employees or your customers where to invest their money. It's just not what they do. What they're really there to do is help them pay down their debt faster, reorganize their budget to find every single dollar that's available to use towards paying down debt, saving for retirement, and reducing the stress of life. We've also added gamification and cool tools, and we've made it family and employer friendly. It's bank agnostic, meaning that it can work for mortgage lenders and banks and credit unions and real estate people all at the same time. And of course, given that my background, we've built an enormous library of over 500 pieces of specially written, unique content written by some of the country's top financial journalists, because we want your people to have unbiased, helpful, and relevant information. So I talked a little bit about our money coaches, and then we're going to do another poll before we show you the actual product and how it came out. But I just want to stress that our money coaches are actually members of the National Foundation for Consumer Credit. You may remember them as the old CCCS group. They've had a bunch of name changes, but we contract with them to back end this for us. That said, the product is entirely brandable and customizable to a great degree. And if you want your phone number in because you're already providing the service to your customers and employees, and this will bring you front and center, we're happy to accommodate that and can do it easily. All right, Sean, do you want to do our second poll before we dig into what the product looks like?
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is put another poll on the screen here. And in this stress-o-meter that you guys are going to see in Ilyce's demo shortly, there are far more categories across which stress is measured. But from these few selections, click on the screen which one you think is the most often cited financial stressor among Best Money users. And you can click your answer right here on the screen. A little more than half of you have voted. I'll give you guys a couple more seconds. But of the 15 different categories where Best Money Moves measure stress, this is a sampling. Which one do you think is the most often cited stressor among Best Money Moves users? All right, just about everybody has voted. So let's go ahead and close this out, and I'll share the results here on the screen. So 17% of you said retirement, 50% of you said credit card debt, and a third of you said student loan debt. So Ilyce, you want to tell us real quick what the real answer is?
So it's really interesting, Sean. This changes all the time, and we'll show you how it flips around. But credit card debt today, with the employees that are in our system already, 68% are registering stress about credit card debt, 60% on general managing money, and 60% on retirement. And then right after that at 59% is education and student debt. So you can see that where people are falling, this idea of credit card debt is still really top and center, even as we're seeing more statistics come out from national studies like the Equifax study, which is showing that credit card debt and the on-time payments, credit card debt is rising a little, but on-time payments are much higher than they were at almost any point in time over the last 10 years, and yet people are very, very concerned about it. Well, let me show you how Best Money Moves works, and to do that, I'm going to get out of, hang on, here we go, and I'm going to go up here again, and let me give you Best Money Moves. So this is a mobile-first website, so it works on any smartphone that is out there. What you'll see, and I want to just walk you through this board quickly, as good as it looks here, it looks even better on a phone, and I'll be happy to have all of you sign up for your own demo versions so that you can go in and test it on your phones yourself. This is our Money Coach hotline. Every company gets its own unique number. If you want your own phone number to go in here, it can either replace the Money Coach number or we would just add another box below it. One of the benefits of being on the latest technology, being cloud-based, means that everything updates instantaneously, and we have a lot of flexibility for branding and customization. So for example, you see our Best Money Moves logo up here. It could also be your logo, or it could be your logo powered by Best Money Moves, depending on how you want to present to your customers, clients, or employees. This box over here is where the HR admin, or if it's you're providing this to employees or to customers, where you would be able to put in your own messages to them. And the box would grow or shrink depending on how big your message is. And there's no limit to the length of messages. Over here on the right with our blue favicon, this is where we announce contest winners. So we host a couple of global contests each month with a prize. Another point of customization is that you can host your own contest for your own employees or for your customers, and I'll show you how that works in just a moment. The stressometer is really one of our centerpiece algorithms, and what it does is it measures your level of financial stress. Here are the categories that we measure in, as you can see. Super easy to use. I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to add, let's say I'm very stressed about my credit report and score, and so the box comes up. You just simply slide it to wherever it is. Let's put it at a 10 and update that. You'll see it pop up here. And then anytime you register a 9, 8, 9, or 10, our program tells you that you're super stressed. You can see up here I got some points for that. And we start to figure out, or our technology starts to figure out where it is that you're concerned. Like how does that play out for you? So we said that you were stressed about your credit report and score. You gave it a 10, but there's a lot of different ways that could go. And so what our program, which is a machine learning algorithm, is trying to do is learn more about where you are in that different journey. And so depending on how you answer things, the program will send you relevant information. So you can see up here we've got credit report and score is a 10, education student debt is a 10, credit card debt's a 9, and healthcare costs are a 7. This ties directly to the recommended reading, and you'll see that each of those concerns is reflected down here in our recommended reading. And the more you click in to read about it, the more our technology thinks that must be something that you're interested in. And of course, we measure not just whether you click on something to get points, but if you're actually reading the story all the way to the end and what you stop on, how long it takes. You know, the program has a little bit of smarts to it. And you can see we don't link out to other places. We're not recommending specific companies. The only time we link to a company is if it's a government, a .gov, or something that the government requires an industry to hold, like annualcreditreport.com. And down here, you'll see more relevant information. And of course, you can favorite it and like it, and it's not helpful. And so we've got things that we do with that as well. If you go back to the dashboard, you'll see that over here, we've got our budget app, the budget part of the app. And you can see that I'm in the red and I'm not managing my money very well right now. But what we're trying to do is teach people the difference between gross income and net income. We show them how their net income relates to their expenses. We give them an opportunity to add any sort of income that they have. Super easy to do. They can add their spouse or partner's salary, their own salary, other. We have a payroll API that we're just finishing now, which would allow you to add a lot of this information in for them. So it would autofill, and then they just add the extras. When it comes to expenses, we have another series of smart algorithms running behind the scenes here. So when you sign up for Best Money Moves in the beginning, and I'll go over to here to my account, we ask you about your living situation because, as you all know, being in real estate, living situation is the primary driver of expense. And if you own a home with a mortgage or without a mortgage, if you're a renter, or, hey, maybe you're lucky enough to live on mom's couch, that's going to be a huge factor in what goes on inside your budget. And so the way you answer that sends you into one of 4 hidden budget buckets. They're basically algorithms. We've taken Bureau of Labor statistical data from our money coaches, 50 plus years of being in business and the 100,000 counseling sessions that they do in a year. And we've added some other unique data sets in. And what we've done is come up with what we think you should be spending based on what your living situation is. And so we show you what your spending is, what your best money move is, and whether or not you're on budget. And you can see I'm on budget in a lot of places, and then suddenly I'm not so on budget. I'm overspending on healthcare, which may or may not be able to be adjusted. I'm overspending on education. And if you go to the overall budget summary, it gives you a very specific look at how I'm doing and what's going on. And we're finding from the users in the system, and there are thousands of users who now have access to Best Money Moves, that this sort of high-level look at what's going on with their income, their expenses, their savings goals, and their credit card debt, all of this is really contributing to a better, healthier understanding of how income and expenses relate to each other, what their best money moves is, and how they can move forward in a smarter way. Under resources, you'll see that we've got the 525 articles, more are being added each month. We've got all kinds of calculators. We've got webinars. If you were going to do some custom content in the system, this is where your custom content would be listed. So you could have, for customized content, you could have had, if you were a mortgage company, you could have mortgage information for your customers. If you are a realtor organization, you could add membership benefits for realtors. If you're in HR, you could add your own employee set of benefits. So there's lots of different kinds of customization that's available. So I talked a little bit about contests before. If you were going to run your own contest, like Delta Dental out in Colorado, they're one of our customers, and they're starting to run their own contests, and they're giving away grocery store gift certificates as the prize. And this is where their contest is listed in their system. Anything that you add in as a customized part of this will only be available and visible to people who are in your system. And we allow you to set up groups within. So let's say you have you've got full W-2 employees on one side and 1099s on the other. We can group them accordingly, and we can turn on and off different pockets of information just in your system so that they can or cannot see what you want them to see. And same thing with your customers. If you were going to add another group that was customers, we could turn on and off information for them as well. The nice thing is that no matter how we slice and dice everybody, the reports page, which is only visible to the HR admin, and we can have several of those if you want per company, it would be available to you, all the data that would scrape through. So let me explain what this actually is. So of our demo system, and we've set up a bunch of our companies in here as demo, 108 people have now registered stress. They've got an average stress level of a 7, and you can see what they're actually stressed about. Now remember, this is just our demo system. It's people like you who might be trying out the system for their own employees or to give to customers. So it's a little bit different than the numbers I read to you earlier, which is our real employees who are in the system. But even so, credit card debt still turns out on top. And retirement is still number 2. And then you've got student debt and healthcare costs, number 3 and 4. And so below that, you can see the overall financial health metric. We're going to have an upgrade available that will add credit to the mix. And once we're able to add credit and also some other workforce data, the overall financial metric will have an upgrade that shows that data point as well. Down here, we've got some basic usage metrics. And then, of course, over here where it says update company message, it's super simple. You would just highlight or delete and then type in, hit save message, and that would be available throughout the system. And then finally, this is your contest leaderboard. It shows you what's going on in the front. And if you had your own contest, it would say whatever your company name is right here, and it would show you who's doing well in your own company system. You can see that I'm IG and I have 5,000 points today, but you'd be able to see who's doing well in your own company. And what we're finding is there are a core group of people who use Best Money Moves all the time, and then there's a whole bunch of other people who are dipping in and using it maybe once a month to answer questions, to go into the resources page, and all the rest. So it's nice to see that the usage is high. And by the way, I should talk about that, and I'll get to that in just a moment. But the usage is very, very high right now. So we started Best Money Moves last year. We went into beta in September. We came out of beta in January. We've been signing up companies ever since. And the usage is running an average of 31%, but as high as 48% for one of our companies, which is super exciting.
Ilyce, this is Sean. Can I ask a couple questions for our audience?
Absolutely.
So I want to ask about 2 things, content and contests, while we're in here doing this demo. For the content, you hit on it earlier, but can you give us more detail about the source of that content? This is all written by people that you source, and can you walk us through the fact checking and editing controls and frequency of publishing?
Absolutely. So as you know, or as people may or may not know, I've been writing a nationally syndicated column on money and real estate for, believe it or not, since 1993, so 24 years. I've written 13 books on money and real estate, with my 14th to be published very soon. And of course, I'm the owner and publisher of thinklink.com, but we've also built big web portals for other companies, from Yahoo to AOL to Equifax to Discover Card, and a company that you've probably never heard of called One Technologies down in Texas. So my team has a tremendous amount of experience sourcing the smartest experts in each area and then writing original content to meet a certain set of specifications. For Best Money Moves, we didn't want to stream in articles from the Wall Street Journal and articles from the New York Times and articles from here or articles from there, and relying on them to sort of have a variety of topics that at some point or another would be, useful to the users of this system. Instead, what we really wanted was a very specific list of content that would match our different categories for financial stress and would allow people to dig deep into each one of them to get answers that would be relevant and interesting. We also wanted the content to feel the same all the way through. And so we hired writers, award-winning financial journalists, actually, who are trained to provide unbiased and direct information. We gave them the specifics. We told them how long we wanted it to be and what sources to use. They wrote it. We put it through our 5-point editorial process that we use for all of our corporate customers, where they were all fact-checked. It's been, gone through copy editing and through several sets of eyes to make sure that it's all exactly the way we want it. And we add to that 3 to 4 pieces of original content a month, and that's already started, which is why we're at 525. In addition, we're creating webinars that people will be able to watch because we know that video is so important.
And so regarding contests, we looked at the page, and maybe you can go back to the employee view for a moment. But can you
Sure.
talk a little bit more about why you do those and the impact you've seen from them?
Sure. So everybody likes gamification, and people talk about gamification all the time, and they talk about social engagement. And we have been hired as ThinkLink Media. We've been hired by lots of different companies to start social campaigns and to engage with people on a social level. But what we're finding inside, when it came time to apply it to our own system, we decided that in addition to reaching out socially to increase engagement, which we do through newsletters that go out every week and some other messaging that goes out, but we decided that we wanted to have a contest and the contest had to have not just points, because what's the point of accumulating points? I mean, it has to translate into something. And so we decided to add cash, and we're playing around with how much cash is the right amount. It's behavioral economics at its best, right? Is it one $100 contest, two $100 contests? Is it six $50 prizes? Is that going to move the needle? So what we've landed on at the moment is we do a $100 prize each month for the person who gets the highest point total, highest points. And there's one guy who's won it twice. He's had like 60,000 points. It's unbelievable. But we also do another one where it's a random selection, and anybody could win because these are global contests. And so even if you just get 500 points, that's 500 chances to win. If you get 50,000, you'll have 50,000 chances to win. But believe it or not, we don't get the same winner, month in and month out. It really does change. And what happens is we send these checks to the HR person, the admin, and then they hand the checks over to the people who have won, and it creates quite a stir in the companies. And we definitely see engagement rise in those companies right after somebody has won from a company.
Good deal. So I think we're going to move here to advice for employers and lessons learned. But before we do that, I just want to take a moment to let our audience know what the makeup of our audience is. So we have people from banks, from non-bank lenders, mortgage lenders. Looks like we've got some brokers on here. We definitely have some MLS representation and realtor associations. So a pretty diverse array of employers. And then when you get to the real estate side, you've also got 1099 realtors working for and with a lot of these MLSs and associations. So as we move forward here, and Ilyce gets into the perspective of the employer, I just wanted everybody to kind of think about what is your perspective, what does your staff look like, but also on the real estate side, what might this mean for the realtors who are out there originating and listing in your system, and some of you call them your customers or members. So think about their perspective as well. So anyway, Ilyce, sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, thank you, Sean. So first of all, I'm sure all of you know who Bright MLS is, and clearly we have just had a wonderful experience with them from the beginning. David Charon has been a huge supporter of Best Money Moves, really loved the idea when I first pitched it to him a couple of years ago. And so when we were ready to go, they were one of our test cases, and they've stayed with us as we've moved from beta into just sort of our first MVP. So they've had a number of winners for the contests, and Monica Goodwin, if you've had the chance to meet her, has just been super involved, has had lots of good feedback for us. Their usage rate is running about 32% right now, which they think is terrific. We did a great kickoff with them, and I'm sure she'd be happy to talk with you about their employees' experience. Delta Dental, as I mentioned earlier, Helen Drexler used to be a regional VP for Anthem, based out of Atlanta. She's now the CEO of Delta Dental Colorado. She just believes that if you don't have your own financial house in order, you're never going to be able to do anything else in life. And so she's been very helpful also with the development of this tool. They're seeing a 48% usage rate. And what we're finding truly is when the CEO stands up and says, this is okay to use, please use it. We're seeing a huge number of people from the organization say, okay, if they're saying it's okay, then I can do this. And they feel very comfortable because we show them that the CEO isn't going to be able to see anything personal. They just look at the statistics. In fact, we just had this happen again with United Way in Denver. They signed on last month, and the CEO stood up in front of everybody, and her name is Christine Bonaro, and she just said, listen, it took me 10 minutes to figure out that this was something that not only do we need for every one of our employees, but United Way Denver will be providing Best Money Moves to over 10,000 residents of Denver for a program they call United Neighborhood, where all the members of their board are pitching in to help this relatively poor and undernourished community, really, to grow and thrive and have a new start. And so they're seeing about a 38% usage rate right now. And of course, then there's Down Payment Resource, which is kind enough to provide this forum for all of us today. And they have really just also seen a very nice usage rate. But beyond that, there's, the conversations that I've had with Sean and with Tracy Shell, for those of you who met Tracy, are around how home buyers, other kinds of people who touch the real estate industry may really benefit from something like that. And to that point, I was at a huge bank last week talking with their CMO, they're a $24 billion bank, talking with their CMO about ways to create first-time buyer programs that would feature the gift of Best Money Moves and maybe a copy of my book and something like Down Payment Resources, all bundled in together in order to provide first-time homebuyers with just all the tools that they need to make a really smart decision. And we think that might be a very sticky program that would be something of interest. And you could do it the same way if a real estate agent wanted to provide this to buyers, or again, if an MLS wanted to provide it to realtors in addition to their employees. So we think that there is a significant B2B, B2C opportunity here. And as I said earlier, we are, I believe, going to partner with a major credit organization in the near future to not only provide all of this, but also to provide the credit side of things as well. And maybe this is a good time to talk about some of the other initiatives. We came out of beta in January with our minimum viable product, for those of you in the software world, MVP. What we're going to be providing by January, I hope it's January, it might be just in the first quarter, is the ability to connect with all of your accounts online and download that information. For employers, we are hoping to partner with a company that can provide additional data about how stressed your employees are and build that into the back end as well. So when you have an extremely flexible system the way we do, there's lots of things that we can do to tie in technologically with things that would be important for your customers and your clients and your employees. So again, there's lots of opportunity for you to stay top of mind. The brandable opportunities are terrific, customized content, and then of course, we would customize your employer dashboard to account for different audiences. People ask me all the time who would really benefit from this, and I like to say that we designed it for people who earn $35,000 to maybe $95,000, $100,000 a year, depending on where you live. But the truth of the matter is that even if you earn $250,000 to $300,000, it doesn't matter, because your debts have risen and your expenses have risen typically along with your income. And so I counsel people all day long who earn, $150,000, $350,000, but they're finding themselves every bit as stretched as somebody who earns $55,000 to $60,000 a year. We want to help all of them. And if you're in the nonprofit world, sometimes what you can give are better benefits rather than increases in salary. If you're in the for-profit world, people might be making a lot of money, or they have money, but they don't know how to use it more effectively. We're finding that some people who don't want to actually put their income and expenses in here are using Best Money Moves just for the library of information, because again, it's unbiased, it's well written, it answers their questions, and it doesn't try to sell them anything. Let's talk a little bit about how you can build in Best Money Moves. First of all, IT is going to love this because there's no integration. You give us first name, last name, and email address. We turn on your site in a couple of weeks, and then we have a launch pack that helps promote it with messaging and emails, and we'll send you stress balls and pens if you really want us to. We also have a live webinar that we can do with you, or something that's taped like this one that allows your users to see it on demand. Sean, I'm going to turn it back to you. Do we have any other questions that we want to get to before the end of the hour?
I'll check in fact, Tracy Shell, our VP of Marketing, is here as well. And Tracy, if you can check in the chat box. But Ilyce, a couple questions. From your perspective, if we were to define success, what is success with Best Money Moves for employers and for employees? And really from you and your team, how do you define success for Best Money Moves?
You know, what we'd like to see, Sean, over the course of a year are 3 metrics that I think would be really important. We'd like to see your overall stress of employees go down. And we'd like to see it in a number of ways because, you know, with those, I'm going to just go back to the employer dashboard for a moment. Oops. Here we go. So as you can see where it measures overall stress, you've got stress over the last 6 months. We'd love to see that go down, or at least if you are introducing, let's say, a new health insurance plan and you see healthcare costs go up, healthcare stress goes up, that you're able to provide lunch and learns and get that stress dialed back down. And do I know that number 6 for retirement is the right number, or should it be a 4? I think that by targeting and getting this kind of really detailed information about where the financial stress is coming from allows you as a company owner to really enhance your ROI. Because if people are less stressed and less distracted, they're going to be more focused on getting their jobs done. And trust me, from the information that we've gleaned from all the research we've done, that's actually what they want to do. People just want to go back to work and stop worrying about all this stuff. Another ROI metric, I think, is the overall financial health. Again, this is just a demo, but we'd love to see the savings of employees go up, and we'd love to see their debt go down. And is it self-reported? It is, but our tools are there to make sure that people are managing these things effectively. Over the course of a couple of years, we do believe we're going to be able to tie the reduction of financial stress directly to things like healthcare costs and use of your 401k, and partly the use of a payroll API will allow us to do that, because the payroll API will allow us to port over things like the number of people who are actually borrowing from their 401k, and are they paying it back on time? Are they late in paying it back? We'll be able to dig in deep and use some of that information as filters for, on this page, where instead of it saying all companies, you'll be able to look at it by group and apply filters to be able to understand exactly where people are going with this. And we think that those are going to be some of the best ROI for you.
Good deal. So let's see. We don't have any other questions from the audience. Any just kind of closing statements, anything you want to finish with speaking to employers in the audience?
Sure. We would love to help you measure your company's level of financial stress. We would love to help you dial it down. And we'd love this to be something that your employees turn to and that you feel comfortable in having them turn to it. So if you wanted to put in your own benefits, this would be another way to make it even stickier for your employees. We're finding that custom content and custom contests both are driving engagement, and we think it'll be useful for you as well. And it's awfully nice to have a place where your employees are never going to get sold anything. So there's nothing for them to buy in here. All that they can do is call the money coaches to get some help. But we want them to get that kind of help, and so do you. So that's really what we're doing here. Happy to go through what it would look like for you, for your company, and how we can work with you to make that a very successful program.
Good deal. Well, Ilyce, thank you so much. This has been eye-opening to a certain extent and very informative. And to our audience, thank you for joining. If you have any questions, Ilyce, you want to put your contact info back on the screen for a moment?
Sure. Happy to do that. Here you go. And you can also reach us. You know how to find me, thinklink.com or bestmoneymoves.com. Oh, let me show you one last thing. If you go to bestmoneymoves.com, the check it out box, you can sign up right here for our demo version and play with it yourself. See what it looks like on your own phone. Happy to do that. I know that Tracy is going to send everybody who is on here our white papers. We're happy to send you an 8-page brochure if there's anybody else you want to show this to. You can get that right down here as well. And just let us know if there's anything else that we can do to help.
Excellent. Well, Ilyce, thank you so much. And to our audience, we will follow up with the recording and some of those materials probably by tomorrow. So thanks for joining, and reach out to Ilyce. Go to bestmoneymoves.com and hit that check it out button. All right. Thanks, Ilyce. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you. Bye.